Hello everyone. Today we will be discussing a doc which I've prepared regarding how Chromium displays web pages, profile architecture in Chromium, and the conclusion will be how we will be able to run background services. That means we will be able to perform tasks like opening web pages and fetching URLs, getting latest data from specific websites and displaying it in the new tab page in a particular widget for the user without opening a new tab or without showing all these tasks going on in background. So for that we will have to understand a basic high level architecture of Chromium. So here we can see that Chrome basically means the browser window. It can be Chrome or Android web boot depending upon the platform. The content layer, which is all the web pages and web UI which is displayed in the browser window. Then it basically means the networking requests which go through the browser. And we have here one thing called WebKit. WebKit is a browser, a web engine developed by Apple and Google pulls it. But in Chromium, it does not directly uses the original WebKit. It adds its own embedding layer on top of it. Um, which it calls WebKit Glue. What it does is that it just converts the WebKit type conventions to Chromium or Google type conventions so that we can use the best practices for writing Chromium code. Base basically means all the um, modules which can be inherited by all other higher level modules. Chromium. So now we will discuss how Chromium displays web pages and the so on higher level there are two processes running, a render process and a browser process in Chromium. The render process is responsible for all the rendering calculations and um, using the web engine, what all things has to be painted, how, where, all these things are done by the renderer process. And the browser process is responsible for displaying that UI or taking the user inputs and sending it to the renderer process for all these things and for handling the network requests. So in the render process, there are two major classes. One is render view, another is render widget. Render widget is a class which handles all the painting and input handling for the browser. And render view inherits render widget. And in addition to that, it handles the navigation related messages from the browser process. Inside the render process, there are two main threads working. One is a render thread, another is a IO thread or main thread. IO thread is responsible for communication with the browser process through IPC, and render thread is responsible for the rendering process using the web engine. So next we'll see the browser process. So inside the browser process, also there are two threads present, the IO thread and the main thread. The IO thread here handles the again the communication with the render process. Here what it does is it has a filter class which filters out the network requests and the which separates the network requests from the UI requests. What it does is the network requests are handled here itself in this thread only, and the UI requests are mostly sent by the renderer process through a IPC channel, goes via render process host to render view host and render widget host. These two are kind of counterpart of what we have seen in the render process as render view and render widget. So render view and render widget then um, performs the necessary tasks required for displaying it in the UI and then sends the message to the and displays it in the UI browser window via the web content layer.